This is Stacy Barthe, and you know I got soul. Hi, how are you?
Hey, Stacy, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
That's good. Thank you for taking the time out for the interview. We appreciate you.
Thank you for taking the time out to interview me.
Of course. So I just want to talk about, first your P.S. I Love You EP, which is, scheduled to come out tomorrow. Just tell us about the project. I know this is your third EP now, so what can we expect on there?
Yeah, well, okay, so this is the third EP. It's like my last one before my actual album, which is set to be released in fall of 2013 so far.
Okay.
So this is basically where I find happiness and where I find love, not just for someone else, but for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like Sincerely Yours, I'm kind of being very open and honest about things that plague me. And, so I'm really, forthright in my lyrics still. And there's just a little bit more insight on things that I care about on this record too, like records like Flawed Beautiful Creatures and Hell Yeah, and the last record on the EP entitled Before I Knew You, which basically sums up my entire story in my last 3 years, 2 years of me transforming into the person I'm trying to be mentally, physically, spiritually. I lost 153 pounds, 56 pounds, and I'm in my cocoon phase, and I'm becoming the person, that I want to be. So it's a lot of self-exploration on P.S. I Love You. So it's not just P.S. I Love You, it's P.S. I Love Me.
Cool.
So.
And, what about your growth, I guess, musically since Sincerely Yours EP? What type of musical growth will we hear on this project?
On this project, there's still, of course, like some reggae influences, and there's just a little bit more hip-hop infused flavor, and it's just actually like a nice look into music. Like lyrically, you can just tell I'm in a different space spiritually.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming from a lot of sad, broken songs where I was broken, and here you'll hear somebody who's more confident.
Right. Okay. Like as we mentioned, this is your third EP now. What made you decide to go the route of releasing a few EPs rather than putting out like a full-length album?
Because I had to grow, like I had things that I had to get off my chest, and like each piece represents the soundtrack to whatever my life was at the time. Sincerely Yours, I was broken. In the in-between, I was just with the title states, like I was in the in-between being a songwriter for people and being in the background and being the actual artist and the face of the music, in between being an independent artist and actually being signed to a label. So that's where I was. So now it's P.S. I Love You. So.
Cool.
So I had to do those things to get to the place that I am now, which right now I'm starting to work on my album.
Right. Okay.
And it's gonna be special.
Nice. And of course, you have out the single "Hell Yeah" features Rick Ross. I was just curious, what inspired the lyrics behind that song?
That song, basically just everything that was going on in the news, and things that were going on in my own life. I'm happy in general, but there's always something that I battle with. We all do. We all face challenges every day, and it just seems like every time you're about to make it over the hump, something knocks you down. So it was talking about that. It was talking about, taxes and people being taxed to death, and I did this prior to President Obama actually winning, and I was like, this would be dope if, he won and this song came out to just open people's eyes, because for a long time we were in a haze, and nobody cares about what's really going on in the streets in Chicago and just everywhere. It's just so, I feel like we live in hell here.
Right.
And then the refrain, hell yeah, like I feel like a lot of people feel like that.
Right.
Because there are more people doing bad than there are doing good, you know?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So,
definitely.
I wrote it from that perspective.
Okay. You know, in terms of yourself as a writer, you've been an established writer in this industry for a while now, for years. You've been well respected. You've worked with many big names. Has it ever been hard to break the stigma of being just a writer and kind of establish yourself as an artist as well?
Well, totally, because, you know, people always want to keep you where they knew you and were most comfortable with you at. So, you know, it doesn't... People have always known that I can write great lyrics.
Right.
So now being an artist is a whole different, you know, beast. Because not only do I have to write great music, but I have to deliver it. I have to perform it. I have to, you know, you have to kind of be this thing as an artist where, to me, like, I'm just kind of being myself.
Right.
And I feel like that's going to be enough.
Right, definitely. So, you know, on the other side of things as a writer, I'm sure your demand has increased. You know, you've worked with bigger and bigger names as the years have gone on. You know, how have you seen the demand for your talents as a writer increase, you know, as you've done more work?
I think it's been mild, you know?
Okay.
It's like... people are still getting to know me as a writer because, you know, I've had placements, but I haven't had that many singles. So
right.
Now people are hearing me on the T.I. record. I'm the voice. T.I. featuring Andre 3000. That's me on the hook.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I wrote for Alicia Keys, and hopefully she makes one of our songs a single. Like, the more you get more notoriety, the more your songs become singles.
Right.
You know, because that's the major... What if somebody didn't buy the song on iTunes that I wrote, you know? Because people aren't just buying entire albums anymore. They're picking the songs that they like. So if it becomes a single, there is more chances for people to know that you wrote a song. You know what I mean? People aren't reading... I don't know if people are, like, reading album credits or if they even care.
Right.
But if it's single, then there you go.
No, that's a great point. Okay. You mentioned, you know, the work you recently did with Alicia Keys. You had a couple songs on her latest album, you know, wrote for her. What was that whole situation like? You know, how was that experience?
I mean, Alicia Keys is probably one of the most beautiful, spirited people I've met. And I was always a fan of her since I was, like, in the 11th grade. And she's pretty much everything I thought she'd be, personality-wise. And we just... I guess you could say I found my sister in the song. Like, she's amazing, and she was open to my ideas. She was, you know, we collaborated. It was like I didn't write it for her. We wrote it together. So, just writing with her and her perspective.
Cool. So, talk about, you know, you're on this Motown label. They're having a, you know, sort of resurgence. What's that whole situation been like for you there, and how have you noticed, you know, the label returning and having success there?
Sister, you know, labels, like, there's just this surge of black music that's, like, about to emerge that is gonna, you know, we're gonna cornerstone it and make it relevant again, because for a long time, you know, R&B wasn't really, because it's a hip-hop dominated thing right now, so R&B kind of lost its essence, and we're just trying to bring it back. So me and a couple of friends of mine started a little crew we like to call Nouveau, Noir, and it's basically the new black. So it's like we're trying to create a new black revolution, like the kids who are into art, fashion, music, the Nouveau Noir. So that crew of people is myself, El Varner, Luke James, and Miguel, and basically whoever else wants to rearrange it. But as far as Motown goes, it's DJ the Chicago Kid, Chrisette Michelle, myself, B. Smith, this other girl named Story, Scotty Rebel. So it's a nice roster. Now, because it's such a boutique situation, they just have to be passionate and strategic about how they release the new music, the new Motown, like what's the look, what's the feel, because it has to feel like a cultural movement, you know what I mean? Right. Like it has to be culturally relevant. So just really, knowing how it was done in the past and creating a new version of whatever that was. Right.
Cool.
And I feel like Motown back then represented camaraderie. It represented, like, you wouldn't be surprised seeing Michael Jackson singing a background in the studio for Stevie Wonder. Like, we all have to be able and should support one another and be there.
Right. Right.
Just like the old Motown.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely a lot of, exciting artists on Motown, so looking forward to seeing what's coming next from Motown. So, like we've mentioned, your full-length album will be next. Is your third EP coming out now? How do you approach this album, going into it and preparing to unleash it to the world?
Well, like I said, I'm in my cocoon phase right now, right? And by the time the album comes out, I will emerge into this butterfly, and you'll see what I'm talking about in the future, because this album is my official coming out.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm piecing it together now, and I just realized what I was going to talk about and what this was going to be about. I don't want to say just yet.
Right.
But it is also a continuation, but the first chapter of my new life. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because by this point, like, I would have morphed into the person that I want to be mentally, physically, spiritually. Like, it's the rebirth.
Right. Okay, cool. And just finally to wrap up, you're, like we've mentioned, you're a very accomplished writer. You've worked with some big names, but I know you're going to be focusing on your own album, but, do you have dreams of working with a particular artist or writing a song for an artist you haven't had a chance to work with yet?
Yes. I mean, I worked with her one time, but I would love to work with Beyonce. Everyone who knows me knows how I feel about B. Like, I love her. And that's one person that I haven't worked with that I would love to work and write for.
Cool. I hope that works out for you. That'd be dope.
That would be crazy.